Hey guys, this is Simon with Trade and Perform Coaching, doing a specific. Really, this is a coaching session on how to use the trap trade. So, if you look in the videos on the blog in front of us, we've covered how to use the purple bar with a down triangle followed immediately by a star for the long side trade. Now we're going to talk about the long side trades using what we call the trap trade, and the trap trade involves a power bar. So let me jump into it really quick. Hold on one second. And so let's answer what a trap trade is or what it looks like. So specifically, and again, I'm going to focus these on long side trades. What a trap trade is you'll have a power bar. So let's just do it step by step. So all these light blue triangles here are power bars, right? That once they print, they do not erase. And they play an important role in both figuring out direction and telling us where there's been a major effort to turn the market. So one of the things that we pursue in the room constantly are where we can find trap traders. And usually several times a day, we can find a very specific setup where we have a trap trader that meaning a trader that gets trapped, an apex trader that gets trapped and closed back into immediately. And what that means, let me kind of draw this out. Let's say you had a seller come in. You know that at that point, because of the way the algo forms this bar, that there was a lot of energy pushed in here, and then that trader was immediately rejected. Well, the market comes back one more time, right, and pushes just below that prior apex and immediately closes back in, and that often generates a big lift in the other direction. So let me give you some examples. Again, I'm only going to focus on the longs, mostly because most retail traders like to trade to the long side. And I'm going to focus on ES, but this works beautifully with NQ, ES, certainly CL. And so I want to try to focus this so that it helps more people easily understand what it is that we're trying to accomplish. So members in the room will notice I've stripped this down. I've taken out the TnP radar, which kind of shows us the top of the channel and the bottom of the channel, just to show specifically the trade. So what I'm looking for when I see these trades is I'm looking for at some point a power bar, right? So just like this, these print, again, they don't unprint. And then I'm looking for at some point for the power bar to be taken out just like this. See how we traded underneath and then close back in. Your entry's on the bar that closes back in, and then it tends to lift to the upside. And I'm just going to show a couple of examples. This example happened to be on 7/14 on Thursday, right? And again, these don't write and unwrite themselves, right? So really pretty straightforward in identification. So again, you'll see this at 7:30. We take out the power bar to the left, closes back in, and gets this beautiful rotation back up. See if I can find a few more examples. And some examples that aren't setups, right? So one of the requirements is that the bar closes back in on one bar or on the triangle up. So this would not be a setup. It's a different algo setup, but the idea behind this is that when someone comes in the room, how can they start making money or know exactly what they're looking for almost immediately, right? So that would be an example where the trade would not be what we're looking for. Again, over here would be an example. So see how you have these two power bars over here on the left. And again, I'm trying to do this really slowly. So if someone watched this and then they said, hey, send me the software, Simon, or sign me up for the room, they could come in and they would know exactly what they're looking for. And so if you look, you put a line right over here, and you will see that right over here, we just barely take out that power bar, close back in, and get a beautiful lift to the upside. I'm going to give a couple of examples on this, and then we'll go to step 2, which is which ones are better than others. So sometimes you don't get it, right? Sometimes you'll get to an apex and there just is no setup. That's all right. So what the algo is not trying to do is it's not trying to be perfect. It's not trying to capture every move. What we're trying to do is capture the moves we can identify, put on good risk, and the stop is very, very specific. Let me give you an example. So here's a great example. Here's a power bar. Okay, so that power bar gets broken and it can either close behind or simply trade behind. So I'm going to make this really big so everyone can see it. You close behind. So I'm looking at this bar, put a blue line on it. This bar gets taken out by this purple bar right here, gets closed in right here. So my entry, if I'm trading on an 8 range Renko bar, my entry specifically at the close. So if I see that purple bar and I can see that it's closing into the apex to the left, right? My entry is going to be, I'm going to put a buy stop at 37.60.75. And I'm going to put a stop right below. I have two choices for a stop. There's a cheap stop and an expensive stop. The immediate stop is going to be 37.60.50. The complete close behind the bar is actually where the bar gets taken out, and it usually requires an 8-point stop. That has the odds of keeping you in more trades, but the stop is more expensive, and that's one of the areas you have to make a decision as to which stop you're going to use. Most people choose the single bar as their stop, right? So that would put you at a 5-point stop. You entered that 37.65.75, and in this case, within a relatively short period of time, that was right at the open, you extend to 37.93, which would have been a 30-point rotation roughly up. Right over here, you finally got the 30-point rotation up, right? And again, I'm not going to focus at all on shorts. I'm only going to look at longs. Now, sometimes the trade sets up, like you'll see over here, and it just doesn't give you a huge rotation, right? So this is the apex. And you can see that the apex was just actually taken out. It's a one tick take out of that apex on this bar, and then it closes back in. So your long would be on this star again. Once it prints, right? That's purple bar star. And so the next question we'd have is, well, if I have a 5-point stop, do I get a 5-point extension? The answer is not always, right? In this case, you would have entered at 65.25, and you did get to 70.25. You should have either taken it out for 4 3/4 or 5, but the target is to get to 4 to 5 points for your first scale, right? So you get to 1 to 1, then you leave your trailer for the bigger extension. That's a really important point, right? And you'll see even over here where let's leave this out. This is 7:30. Let's go to where the market's a little bit slower. Most of the time we aren't trading at that time frame, but you'll even see over here off on the right shoulder, this is coming just after London Open. You'll see over here there's 2 opportunities, right? So first, there's nothing for me to do, right? I see this apex over here, and I'm just going to put a line underneath it, right? And then I see this apex over here. I'm going to put a line underneath it. Then one over here. And then you'll finally see on the one over here, see how I'll make that really big so I'll make sure that it comes through on the video. You'll see that it gets it taken out by a tick right there. Closes back in. Your entry's at the top of this bar. And now your entry would be 38.25.25. You're going to have, again, I'm going to assume a 5-point stop, and 38.25.25. And almost immediately, this is coming out of Asia, early AM, you extend to 38.38.75. So that's a 13-point trade. You get your 5 points off on half your trade to cover your risk reward, to cover your risk in the trade, and then the trailer to get your RR, right? And then you'll see over here, right, if we erase the lines. So as we're trading, we see London opens, and we see they start off with this drive to the downside. So I'm looking right over here. London is opened, and I have several candidates, right? I want the candidates to be bars or apexes that have not been tested yet. So here's one apex, and here's the other apex. You could have used either one. In this case, they both work just fine. And you will see there's the close below. Here's the close back in. My entry would have been a buy stop 1 tick above this bar. And again, I know because I have a range bar predictor that tells me where that bar will close. You can see it on the screen in real time. I'm going to enter at 38.23.25. And you can see in this particular case, that extension from 3 in the morning, right, pretty much gave you a straight drive up for 50 points, right? And I'm not cherry picking. I'm just going through as they set up. And you'll notice to the right, it just doesn't set up again off to the right. So the advantage of this does is A, you're stopping somebody out. You always want to stop somebody out and enter the trade once their stops have been taken. And that 1 bar stop out tells you, hey, I just got behind these power bars. They took all the stops and they closed back in. The next step is I want to get my own risk off. That usually can be done in 4 to 5 points, or I get the majority of my risk off. And then my win rate, which is very high. You'll notice as I slide back, and I'm going to ignore all the shorts. So let's look even in this scenario here where we get a hard rip to the downside. And again, all I'm looking for in this setup as we're coming down is I'm looking to see, well, do I stop anybody out along the way? So I have 2 choices. I can come all the way back over here. So this would be one candidate right over here. But you'll see, and I'm trying to go as slowly as I humanly possibly can, right? And what you'll see here is if I can erase this line, which I can't. Let's try the second way of doing this. I know I can't. That's the mid of the IB. No problem. I see why I can't erase that. So I have one here. And you'll notice as we look over here, see how no bar ever closes back in. So right when I get to this bar, I'm going to be putting a buy stop wherever. If this bar had closed positive instead of negative, my entry buy stop would be right there. It never triggers, so no trade. Then the next thing I do is I'm looking to the left and I say, well, maybe this is a candidate right over here. And you can see again, we close out right here, closes back in on this bar with the star. My entry is going to be 38.45 and a quarter. My stop is going to go down here. Again, you can see that's roughly 5 points, 38.40. And within a reasonable period of time, you can see extension from 38.40 to 38.69. That's a 29-point trade, right? So that's obviously dependent on the rotations in the market and the range that the market's offering. But you can see almost immediately you get your 5-point risk off. And here, if you look carefully, you will see again that we take out power bar right there, right? So you got a second chance at this. So that's 38.44, took it out. Your entry's 38.47, your stop's 5 points. At 38.52, excuse me, here's where you achieved your 1-to-1 risk reward. So if you take half the trade off and the trade comes back and stops the balance, you're at a net zero. And then again, you can see that extended from 38.47 up to 38.69 neighborhood. I'm not suggesting you stay in that trade for the whole trade, but I am suggesting you attempt to get a 2-to-1 RR or 1.5 RR on the second leg of the trade. And you'll see the win rate's very high if we go through bar by bar. So if you look at this right here, this is not a okay, let me correct that. This is an entry. This is the harder entry, and I don't want to cover it. It can close in on the second bar, but the ability to get the RR is more difficult. This didn't trigger over here. This is a 1-bar stop still. It's still a 5-point stop, but the stop rate is higher, and it takes a more advanced understanding of what you're looking for to capture that trade. And this is really aimed at people who are just coming in the room and what are they looking for a win rate. Again, you'll see over here when you're looking at 849, we come down, we appear to set a low, right? Then we set a higher low. So the assumption is that there are going to be stops behind these bars. And if you will then put a line behind this, you'll see they come back, stop it out, close back in with the star again, a 5-point stop. Your entry is 38.57, and you get an initial extension up to 38 69. And for so many people, all you need to do is find 1 or 2 trades a day to have a really good trading day, right? And again, for the more aggressive traders or the people who like to short, this works beautifully in shorting. Most people prefer to trade one side and they prefer to trade to the long side. So I'm focusing on the long side. There's also something else to remember. You don't always get the setup, right? You could be sitting right down here at 1 in the morning going, oh, wow, I'm really excited about the long. Now, there's another setup here for us that I'm not going to focus on. That it's done in a video prior, but it's that triangle down followed by a star. That's a high odds entry, right? A triangle followed by a star. So what I'm trying to do is go, what's the highest odds? What trades will set up the best for us? And you can see I can pretty much go to any day randomly, stop anywhere randomly. Here, we'll just choose this. This is 623, right? And we'll go look at early in the morning. So this is starting at 2:30 in the morning. And you will see over here that I have my apex. You can see right over here. What I'm trying to point out is that the pattern repeats over and over again. Gets stopped out, closes back in with a star, and look at the rip to the right side. Now that was at 2 in the morning. So you'd say, well, what about the US session, Simon? How would that look? Well, we can go see how that would work out. So here's your first trap in, right? This took out the power bar. And in the next video, I'm going to show you how to make the odds even higher, right? So this trap back in, closes in. I believe you're not going to get your 5 points here. So if we're at 84, we need 89. Did we get 89? We did not get 89. We got 88. You either had to make a judgment call or you took a 5-point stop on this trade. But then it came right back over, right? And I don't want to, other than to say I don't trade 8:30 in the morning normally, which we don't. I skip the first half hour. I still want to show the process, right? So here you are. You take out the curve again. This time your entry is 38.79. So the only question I'm asking is, can I get 38.84, right? If I'm going to 80, I want 80, I guess 85 is what I'm looking for. And you can see on the second trade, I pick up my 1-to-1 RR, and eventually I'm able to extend all the way up from 79 to 89. This little rip right here, this is a 10-point trade, right? Then again, you'll see right over here, we take out, and remember, they have to be virgin apexes, right? So, and if you're getting bored watching this, just think about it. This is what you're sitting there waiting for trading wise. You're not having to read the whole market. You're not having to guess whether the market's going to go up 1,000 points or down 1,000 points, right? You're just sitting there looking, going, oh, we took out the apex, closed back in. My entry is 37.77 3/4, so let's just call it 37.78, which means I need 37.83 to get to my break even. Well, I get that right over here. Now I have to make a decision on what to do with my trailer, but my risk itself is risk-free. And if you look as we come over, right, we're looking for the trade again. So if you'll see on this side of 9 o'clock, and this normally would be where I start trading, where I suggest members in the room start trading. Again, you take out the apex, you close back in. Your entry is 37.75. Let's call it 37.76. That means I need 37.81 for my scale. There's your 37.81. And the most you could have done right on that immediate upleg would have been 37.89. 76 to 89 is 13 points. That's $600, $650 a contract, right? That's a really, really good trade. And you'll see again right over here, right? It resets. Take out the apex. Now this is a little bit tricky, so let's show you where it's a little bit tricky. This took out the apex by 1 tick right here and set up long. It then stopped you, so you took a -5 on this. But it retrapped almost immediately. See how it closed and then closed back in? So your re-entry on this trade comes right here at 37.80. So 85 gets my 1-to-1 risk reward. And then let's go look off to the right. What's the best we could have done on that? Would have been 37.99.75. So 37.79, the 37.80 to 37.99 is pretty much 20 points, on your trade, right? That more than pays for your 5-point stop. You recovered at least a chunk of that 5-point stop on your first scale, and then you get the RR out of the trade. And you'll also notice on the edge, right? The shorts do work. Same setup. Shorts do work, but most people focus on the long side. And just so you know that this isn't just, oh, he's picking particular days, just go grab random days here. Let's go back to 613. I stopped here because that's where the machine stopped. And I always like to go back, look early in the morning, somewhere near London. So here's where London opened. So we can already tell we're going to have some difficulty here, right? Here's London open. And I'm still going to take the longs, right? So if I look early, no setup, no setup. Is this a setup here? Yes. So that would have been an entry and a stop. So let's go through this sequence. I'm going to say that's -5. This is an entry until I show you the higher odds way of entering the trade, which I will do in one of the next videos. So I need 5 points, right? So let's say 38, 23, 50. I need 28, 50. Do I get it? Ooh, gonna be close. Maybe, maybe not. If you come within a tick and you just miss that, you have to make a judgment call, but pretty darn close. But even for sake of conversation, let's just call that a loss. Now we're down 10 points. All right. So now I'm going to come over here at 4:30 in the morning. And do I get my first trade here? Get my first trade right over here on the star. All right. So my entry is 38.05, and the best I can get on that is 38.14. So this is important. We're assuming that we're already down 10 points. So if you just need to get back to flat, you're almost there, right? I'm going to assume you scaled 5 and then you took another 10. So you're going to be down about 2 points net on the trade, right? The important thing is managing the risk and figuring out how you're going to get back to flat through a series of trades, right? But then your next trade is going to set up right over here. Again, you're going to put a line right underneath this power bar. It's going to be denoted by a blue bar. So it gets taken out by a tick. Your entry is right here, 38.05. I already know that it stretches at least up to 38.21. I obviously get my 38.10.50 for my scale. That's my 10.50. And I know from that 38.05 I was able to get 15 or 16 points before it rolled back down, right? And then I just start that whole process over again, right? So this trade wouldn't count because it didn't close back in on one bar. It was awfully close, but it didn't do it, which is fine. And then as I look to the right over here, so remember I'm up on the day at this point, right? So now I'm going to look back to the left. This is the apex I'm closing out, right? So you can see I just closed below, right here. Close back in. My long on that trade. I'm just following along the bouncing line. This is just as it lays out in real time. Entries on this bar. It's a 5-point stop, 3,800. And you can see there, I clearly get my 5 points. And it extends for me. I would have never taken that at 821, by the way, but you can see that it extends for me up to 19. Clearly getting my, again, better than 1-to-1 RR and letting me push the trailer. I'm going to skip here to 9 o'clock. And again, at 9 o'clock, you would see this is clearly the trap right here. My entry would be 38, let's just call it 99. I need 04 for a scale. You can see I got my scale. And then it just depends. If you want a 1-to-1 RR, you take the whole thing off. If you're going to try and get the trailer, your trailer got stopped. That becomes a judgment call, right? You can see again, I tend to push for the larger trades. That's just me, right? Again, you can see that we trapped right here on the star, right? Your entry would have been 37.75. So the only question I have here is, do I get 80? And I have all my risk off on that trade. Come down again. Here's where a lot of people get flummoxed. There's not an entry here. It's just too bad. There's just not an entry. You just got to let it go, right? But if you go over to the right, so a couple of things. I'm unlikely to take this trade up here, just so you know. It just hasn't rotated back enough, even though the trade worked. You'll see we take out this power bar right here. This one right here. You'll see that we just took out that power bar, closed back in. The trade worked. I wouldn't have taken it. Let's see if anything came up in the afternoon. There's your long, and you clearly got paid at 12:30. How many trades do you need in a day to have a really great day? And then I don't think this trapped properly. Let's see. Just missed. You'd have to be an advanced trader and be willing to accept the risk of the triangle up. Let's see. And then you may have taken a stop over here at 4 o'clock. Indeed, you did. We don't trade the last 10 minutes of any hour in the room for exactly this reason, but I don't think you got your risk reward on this if you took it. And again, we wouldn't have taken it with just 2 minutes till top of the hour, but that entry, still don't mind showing it. 71, you needed 76, and you got your 5 points, even there. You got your 5 points to get your risk off. No setup there. Here's your next long right here. Your long would have been 50. My only question is, did I get 55? I did. And again, I have to decide whether I want to take off 1-to-1, 3/4, half and half. That becomes the trader's choice. And then you'll see over here to the right, right? Stopped out the apex, closed back in with a star. This one rips. This is right at the close, so again, I doubt anyone would have taken it, but it does rip. 49 to 69. So the goal of the software is to help you make good decisions, consistent, repeatable decisions, and not try to have to be in the business of predicting what the market's going to go, but just to identify, hey, I have a trapped seller there. I'm going to take them the other way. I'm going to take my money and move on to the next trade. Anyways, my name is Simon. I'm with Trade and Perform Coaching. I really believe this software is revolutionary. It helps retail traders gain the edge that institutional traders have had and pitch you in the driver's seat of it. Instead of taking constant stops, you get really consistent wins and good opportunities to get your one-to-one risk reward, controlled risk, and clear targets. Anyways, have a great day, guys. I will see y'all later. Oh, if you'd like a 5-day trial to the room, just send me an email, tradeandperform@gmail.com.